Do you have a story about Dusty Baker that you could remember that's just so
He
funny?
he is one of the coolest guys in the history of Major League Baseball. He freaking knows everybody. And if you go back and look at his, let's see, it was his news conference when he got the Nationals job, and I forget how the question came up, but I think it was about, hey man, you know a lot of people. He said, yeah, well, it's, and he was basically raised in baseball by Hank Aaron. But the story that I remember hearing him when I listened to that news conference was talking about how he was in San Francisco and he was in Haight-Ashbury and he was walking with some of the guys going to get something to eat. And he looked across the street and there was Jimi Hendrix. He said, yo, Jimmy. And he ran across the street and they became pals and they went off and did a little token going on. And then the other story that comes to mind is as you probably realize, there's not a hell of a lot of African Americans playing Major League Baseball these days. The number's way down, fewer than what is it? We're in the 7-8% out of the 1,200 guys or whatever it is. But one year, I want to say 2011, 2012, he was with Cincinnati, and he had that home rented over in Scottsdale, and he invited all the Black and Latino retired players, scouts, media, anybody else that want to come. They had a big old house. And I'm telling you, it was amazing. Dudes who showed up because, Dusty Baker says, hey, come on down to the crib. And it was amazing. And I wished it would have been a great intrusion, but I wish we at the very least could have had a whole bunch of still pictures of the cats who were there. And recently retired guys who were scouting. And, it was just tremendous. It was one of the best moments I've ever had in sports, especially considering, not having to do with a broadcast or having to write anything. Because, I used to be a writer at the Daily News in New York. He's just a cool dude. And when he won the World Series a couple of years ago, I called him. I waited a 3 weeks. I said, all right, I know you probably heard from everybody. I said, give me an idea who you've heard from. He says, some guy named Obama. And then he started naming LeBron. I mean, a who's who of cats in the world of sports and out of sports. One of the things that made him so great is that if he knew your hometown and they were going into your hometown, like some Hispanic guys, or he would set up a meal or grab some takeout from a restaurant, a noted restaurant in that town, or he would, if he knew birthdays, he would do a special thing in the clubhouse. I mean, there's a lot of managers, they do, pretty cool things like that, but it's not just, they probably broke the mold, when Dusty came here, man. He's gone to the Hall of Fame, and I'm thrilled for him that he got the World Series, even though it was at our expense. But he's gone to the Hall of Fame. I think the last time I looked, he's seventh all time in wins, and he's a great person. And you can't. Matter of fact, the other day, who did we get? We got Ryan Stanek, who had been with them. He was a free agent. And he's a really valued addition to Mariners bullpen. He couldn't say enough good things about Dusty. And he said Dusty now works for the Giants. And Stanek said, hey man, Dusty was trying to get the Giants to take to bring me in. But I said, well, I'm glad you're here. That's going to work out really well.
Well, I love Dusty. He's one of my favorites. I wish he managed the Yankees at one point of his career, but it was like the only team he's never managed.
Yeah. He wanted to manage here in Seattle back when Lou Piniella, when that whole thing fell apart. He was hoping that he'd have got the job then. He loves hunting and fishing, loves this area, the Pacific Northwest. It just didn't work out.
Well, I love the toothpick hanging out of That's the best part of every time I see him on the bench. It's like, where's that toothpick? And he's flipping it in his mouth. I've never seen him get it caught in his teeth. It's unbelievable. This guy's flipping it. I'm like, this guy is
he and UL Washington, who just passed away a couple of days ago, great infielder with the Kansas City Royals back in the late 70s, early 80s, was the same thing. He played with it. It's amazing that he never had an accident.
It's unbelievable. I watch it every time I watched Houston or the Giants. I always watched him in the dugout. He's standing, he's holding onto the bar, and he's flipping this thing in his mouth. I'm like, Does it ever get caught in his teeth? I mean,
No,
seriously,
It's a craft.
And you know, the other thing too that's really great, and there's so many things we've thought about Dusty for a long time, but you know, he learned as a 20-year-old. You know, Henry Aaron was still the king down in Atlanta, and he was like a second father to Dusty. And he said, "Hey, man," he taught a lot of us, particularly the black guys on the team, you know, how to dress, how to, you know, and we were young kids, we didn't know anything. He says, you know, how to go to a fine restaurant, table settings, how to get the best clothes, and all that kind of stuff. I mean, Cito Gaston tells stories about it. I mean, Ralph Garr. I mean, the guy's a Hall of Fame human being, let alone the fact that he's going to be, you know, Hall of Fame. I wish, you know, he's no kid anymore. I mean, he's still vibrant as all heck. It's 73-4, but it's one of those situations where you want to take that five-year rule and say, hey, man, no. Here's an exception to the rule. Here's your plaque. Come to Cooperstown. We'll see you in July.
See, Dusty, you see what the thing with Dusty is, I think he'd still be managing and wheeling his wheelchair in the dugout if he could. You see, Dusty is like, instead of, you know, with a toothpick in his mouth, he'll have like these holes in his wheels where he can pull out a toothpick and stick it in his mouth and just spin it around. I call them wheels. We'll call it Dusty Wheels.
Let Dusty manage from the bullpen carts.
Yeah, why not? Why not? Stranger things, right?
Oh, Dusty probably would do it.